I'm super excited to be here today. Um, and I'm a little bit nervous because this is actually the first time that I've shared like the entirety of this story. And look, like I'm going to share what I'm going to share today, but this isn't the end of the story. Um, because this story very much is a continual, ever evolving, ever reflecting journey right now. And I'm like in it. I'm so in it right now. I'm so in the discovery of just how much these lifestyle choices that I made for so many years impacted me. And I get the incredible gift right now of being in another rapidly expanding and growing business. And I'm getting to do everything differently right now. And the first thing that I want to say is I was in the sauna this morning and I was just kind of reflecting on my life and like thanking God so much for all the incredible blessings that I've had my whole life. And I'm just like, it was a little bit mind blowing to me. I was like, here I am again, on the precipice of building a multiple seven-figure business. And what a blessing that I've gotten to do this not once, not twice, not three times, but coming on now four times of being able to do this. And then I also was kind of laughing because I was like, I swear, God is like, okay, but are you going to get it right this time? Like, are you actually going to get it right this time? Are you going to do it in a way that you don't destroy your physical vessel? Are you going to do it in a way that's in integrity? Are you going to do it in a way, basically, are you going to do it my way? Or are you going to keep trying to do it your way? Right. So a big part of my life right now is just praying every day that I can do it this time following divine will, not my will. And so I think I've set myself up really well this time in business. I've surrounded myself with some really, really incredible people who share my mission and my vision for where I want to go in their own lives as well. And I think that, all roads are pointing to the divine will way, but I do know that it is it's hard work. And it requires showing up every single day, and it requires remaining dedicated, disciplined, consistent to the surrender and to really listening and being able to hear the messages that are coming through and the direction that God, wants to take me. So I guess I'll preface it by saying that I'm really grateful for all of you who are here live with me on the call. And it always means a lot when people show up to listen to my ramblings and my musings. And so if I'm looking all over the place, like I'm live streaming to Instagram as well. And then I'm here on the Zoom and I'm tried to get the cameras lined up, but it might look a little wonky from time to time. So just bear with me. Oh gosh. Okay. Where do I even start? So look, I mean, I think if you're here, you've likely been following me, well, that's not necessarily true. I guess we've got a lot of new people in this space. So I'm Leah Steele. For those that are new here, I'm Leah Steele. And look, like the reality of who I am is that I have had an entrepreneurial spirit, basically since I came out of the womb. I think my whole entire life, I've wanted to make money. I was raised by a single mother who, also I think shared this addiction to working. But she was really, she just worked really hard. I grew up in a house with a mom who worked really, really hard. And as a result, I was alone a lot. I'm an only child. My mom was always working, 2 or 3 jobs. And then as I was leaving junior high, she decided to actually go back to school. She was like this forever student. She was always studying something. It's where my love of religion and theology and all of that stuff comes from. My mom, I did not grow up in a religious home, but I grew up in a highly spiritual home. And my mom was always studying some form of theology or religion. And so, yeah, she definitely passed that down to me, and taught me to cultivate a conscious connection with my higher power very early in life. So I'm really grateful to her for that. Yeah, it's interesting as we age, right? As we age and start to be able to make more sense out of what our parents were doing when they were our age, that we thought like, why are they doing that? They're so crazy. Like, like so much starts to make sense as you start to become the age that they were when you were thinking they were crazy. So I've been having lots of realizations this year that I'm like, wow, I'm incredibly thankful for the example that my mother showed me in regards to open-mindedness about God and religion and theology and religious philosophies. And while that may not seem like it has much to do with what we're talking about here, it really has everything to do with my journey and how I got to this place. And I'll share a little bit about that as I'm sharing this journey with you and this story with you. You guys, I have no clue how long this is going to go. So if you need to hop off, and the replay will be here and available, but it's a bit of a story to tell. And I feel like I've got to give some background. So bear with me. And if you get tired of me running on, then obviously you can hop off. So I was raised by a single mom. She was a forever student. She went back and got a master's degree, became a licensed clinical social worker in between my 8th grade and freshman year in high school. Yeah, I mean, and prior to that, she has a PhD. She just was always studying and always going to school and then always working. And life was a real struggle for her as I was growing up. And I was really aware of that. I always had every single thing that I needed and that I wanted, quite frankly. She worked her ass off to provide, but she wasn't around a lot as a result. And I was alone a lot. And I was totally like this geeky kid. I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, network marketing capital of the world, by the way. Grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, in a time where I looked completely different than any of my peers. My mom always did this thing where no matter where we lived, and we moved around a lot when I was young, but no matter where we lived, we always lived just inside the border of the best school district. So she would always find a home that was like just inside the border, but just inside the border meant that, we were living in a place that we could afford, that was basically inside a border of a good school district. So my friends' parents were always wealthier than I was. And that really impacted me as a kid. Like, I wanted to be wealthy. I wanted to be rich. I wanted to have the life that my friends had. And I always felt like an outcast, and I always felt different. And it didn't help that I was growing up in Salt Lake City, Utah, surrounded by Mormons, and everyone had blonde hair and blue eyes. And I looked completely different. And at that time, in my neighborhood, on the east side of Salt Lake City, for those of you that are familiar with Salt Lake City, there weren't a lot of brown girls around. There weren't a lot of girls that looked like me. In fact, in my elementary school, I was the only one. I was one of 3 in my junior high. And then once I got to high school, there became some more diversity, but I was just different. And I was totally that kid that didn't have a lot of friends, and I read at recess every single day. I was obsessed with books, still am, as you know, if you follow me. I was obsessed with books, and I would just read because my life was not what I wanted it to be. And I just remember like those years were very much me in observation of the life that I wanted to create. Hey, Komang, can you please go tell him to just tell him to get off for an hour, okay? Sorry, Jack is on his VR screaming upstairs. So yeah, I feel like they were just big lessons, right? Like I saw how hard my mom was working. She had to work multiple jobs. It was always a struggle. She was living paycheck to paycheck. There were so many things about it that I was just like, this is not what I want for my life. And so I literally started planning so early how I was going to make money. And at the same time, like I am a person and have always been a person that just doesn't like to be told what to do. I don't like to be told what to do. I realized and recognized very early on, because I got my first job at 13 in retail, that I did not like working for other people. I did not like having bosses telling me what to do. And, I didn't like going to school. I was, I think in high school, this is a super funny story, but like in high school, I was continually being called into the principal's office with my mother because I never went to school, but I had amazing grades. And my mom would just be like, look, it's not my fault that she can like rock up and take your tests, and be getting A's in school and never come to school. So I left high school my junior year in high school, and I just went to college because I was so over it. And at that point I had gone to four full days of high school, like start to finish, 4. And it just like, that's how much I was just like, this is ridiculous. This is nonsense. Like, you're not even teaching me anything here. So I left high school and went to college. And then shortly after that, packed up everything I owned. One of the first times that I packed up every single thing that I owned, or sold every single thing that I owned, and moved to a city that I'd like basically never been to. Packed up everything I owned and moved to New York City, where I lived for 4 years. And I caught the entrepreneurial bug, and I caught the money-making bug. I wanted to make money. And I was raised by a family of people with like next level, incredible work ethic. So my mom is like one of the hardest workers I've ever met in my life, but my grandparents were school teachers in Idaho. Like my grandfather was a football coach and a math teacher who went on to become a principal, who went on to become a superintendent of schools. My grandmother was an English teacher and a choir teacher, and, taught choir or directed the choir in her church. Like my family were just these, like, you just show up and do the things, and you work hard. And you work really, really hard. And like, there is actually no excuse for a poor work ethic. So for me, I never wanted the easy way out. I just wanted to get paid. And I didn't want to do and repeat what my mom had done, which was work hard and bust my ass for no money. So I was always looking and evaluating, where am I going to maximize my return on my time? So even though I was trading hours for money, I was continually looking for the next best opportunity that was going to pay me more money. And so, I've worked in a variety of fields, all mostly marketing and business development related. But I worked in entertainment marketing. I did a lot of grassroots marketing for record labels in New York City. I ran nightclubs. I did sports marketing. I was one of very, very few female executives that put on Women's World Cup in the United States in 1999. I worked for a newspaper syndicate. There's just like so many different things that I did. I worked in import and export for a Japanese company. But really, like, all along the way, I was just trying to figure out how to make the most amount of money. I did a reel yesterday that you may have seen that said fun facts that you may not have known about me, the first one was that I used to be a singer. So I was trained classically, as a child, trained in opera, like from ages like 12 to 16. And then I went to work in the music industry. And at the time that I was working in the music industry in New York City, late 90s, early 2000s, I was around so many artists and so many singers that literally like couldn't sing their way out of a paper bag. And I was like, what is this? Like, there's all these completely untalented people who are making all this money and getting these record deals. And so I did ultimately decide that I wanted to pursue my career in singing in it. And that led me to move to Los Angeles, actually. And I pursued a career in singing, originally R&B and pop music, and then eventually transitioning into country music. And then I got pregnant and with my oldest son. And I had like these grand plans. I just signed with a manager in Nashville. I was getting ready to move to Nashville when I found out I was pregnant. I had these like grand plans for, I was going to record my demo while I was pregnant. I was going to have my baby, and then I was going to become a country music singer. And a very difficult pregnancy that ended up with me being on bed rest for the majority of it. And really, I think experiencing anxiety for the first time during that pregnancy, like debilitating anxiety. It was kind of my first foray into my own mental health and managing my mental health. And very interestingly enough, as I tell this story, something that is fascinating to me is that my doctor, who hilariously enough delivers all the Kardashian babies, I was referred to this doctor in Los Angeles who was a specialist because I had a placental abruption, or I had a hemorrhage in my uterus that my placenta attached to, essentially. And so they were like, there's no way you're going to have this baby. Go see this high-risk doctor. His name's Dr. Paul Crane. Absolutely amazing, hilarious guy in Beverly Hills. But that was just one of my many. I digress on that. Every time I think about him, I laugh though, because I'm like, now he's delivered every single Kardashian baby. At any rate, not lost on me that my anxiety was so bad. And mostly because like he didn't take me on as a client until I was 5 months pregnant. He would have me come back every 2 weeks and do an ultrasound. And he would say to me, there's no way that you're carrying this baby to term. Come back in 2 weeks. If you haven't miscarried, come back in 2 weeks. Like literally for 5 months, that was, and it just created a tremendous amount of anxiety. But it got to the point where he was like, look, I don't want to put you at any more risk. So I don't want to put you on any medication for this anxiety, but you've got to calm down. And he was like, I want you to drink a glass of red wine every single night. And so it's interesting to me how my relationship with alcohol began to be formed, like in this place and in this space and time where I was just starting to experience anxiety, like in my life. Now, I come from a family of alcoholics and drug addicts on both sides of my family, on my mother's side and my father's side. My mom got sober when I was 5 years old and then went to work in addiction treatment. I grew up in treatment centers and Al-Anon clubs, for those of you that are familiar with Alcoholics Anonymous. My mom was sponsoring typically like around 20 to 25 people all the time. She worked in addiction treatment. She worked in she was a therapist, she was a counselor. And I was an only child, and she worked long hours and a lot of hours. And so the majority of my youth, when I wasn't alone, I was in treatment centers around addicts, people who were trying to recover from addiction, and in the halls of Al-Anon clubs and in AA meetings, like, sitting there with my book or sitting there coloring or doing whatever I was doing while I was listening to these recovering addicts recount their stories of alcohol and drug addiction. So I have this pregnancy. I end up having this incredible little human. And then after he's born, I'm like, oh, I don't want to be a singer. Well, first of all, I couldn't record my demo because I was on bed rest for the majority of the pregnancy. And then I was like, oh, I don't want to be a singer anymore. I just want to be a mom after I had my son. So I moved home to Utah, and ended my pursuit of my music career. And then 2 years later, went to work in addiction treatment and went to work for somebody else. And then very quickly decided that wasn't for me. And then we started our own sober living home and addiction treatment programs. My mom by that time was a nationally, if not, I mean, really globally known addiction treatment therapist. And she was kind of the person that people would call to fix their addiction treatment programs. So she would travel all over the world and go into treatment programs like Betty Ford or Hazelden and tell them what was wrong with their program. And then she had her own private practice. So we started addiction treatment programs, and I did that for a long time and was very, very successful at that. And while I was in my addiction treatment programs, I just naturally started doing executive functioning coaching with my clients because I saw that that was something that they really needed, because most of them had been active in their addictions from the time that they were 12 or 13. They had very little skills, very little resources. They were undereducated and as a result, underemployed. They didn't even really know, most of them, how to like create a resume or how to interview. And I just felt like that was something that I could contribute, apart from, my business savvy and know-how in running the business. I was like, oh, this is something that I can contribute and give back to these people. And I caught the bug of like loving coaching. Working in addiction treatment was incredibly rewarding, but I hated it. It was my family business. I felt like I kind of was trapped in it. I was really good at it. And we helped a lot of people get sober and recover. And some of those people today are some of my best friends. And I feel, incredibly, incredibly grateful to have been able to live that part of my life. But I wasn't happy in that. And, so it was the first time that I imploded a very, very successful business. And that's a story for another day, but basically we lost $3 million, ended up $1 million in debt, lost a house, lost a car, and we're about 3 hours away from being homeless. And I had a little child, by that time I'd had another child. He was just going on 2. I mean, it was wild. It was a really wild, crazy time. And yeah, I mean, as I look back through my whole story at my life, it was always show up. It was always work hard. It was always put as many hours as are necessary into doing the things so that you can have the success, so that you can make the money. And I had an idea of who I wanted to be as a woman and as a mother, based upon what I felt like my mom wasn't able to give me. And a lot of that had to do with money and material possessions and stability. And for me, safety, stability, and security was things, material possessions, my house, and cars. And that's what I felt like I needed to give my children for them to feel safe, stable, and secure. And remember this thing of me growing up in the kind of outskirts of the wealthy world. I also wanted the country club membership, and I wanted the kids to be in private school. And I achieved all of these things, and I was miserable. I was on the verge of divorce. I was completely disconnected from my husband. And I was numbing my whole entire life with wine. And not in excess, I still to this day don't look back at any period of my time drinking that I started when I was 13, by the way, and say I was an alcoholic at any point. But I did become very, very skilled at managing and medicating my anxiety, my discomfort, my social anxiety that I had from the time I was a child with alcohol. Even if it was just one glass of wine, it had the ability to it just numbed me out. And can you see that butterfly that's flying around behind my head? And so, I think that I did myself an incredible disservice at a very early age. And I do think it started actually with that pregnancy. And a doctor basically saying to me, this is what you need to do. Like, to be healthy, to be okay, you need to drink this glass of wine every night. And so, yeah, just, wild how these little instances in your life can create these patterns that you anchor in. And wine was always my go-to when I was feeling nervous or feeling anxious in any way, right? And yeah, and I don't like being around a lot of people. Like I get incredibly uncomfortable in crowds of people. And my whole entire life has required that I be in crowds of people. Like every job that I've ever chosen for myself requires me to like show up in crowds of people. So while I was getting ready to go to whatever event, I was always having a glass of champagne, or I was always having a glass of wine to take the edge off. So yeah, I think like just this lifelong, or certainly for the last 18 years, 19 years since my son, my son will be 19 in November. So since my pregnancy with him, I think I have actively used wine to numb feelings of anxiety, which then eventually just turned into numbing feelings, I think, just feelings in general, because I was so much more comfortable in a state of plateaued emotion, right? Where I wasn't feeling high highs, but I wasn't feeling low lows, and I wasn't feeling any, and most importantly for me, I wasn't feeling any anxiety at all. And anytime I would start to feel anxiety, it would be like, okay, I need a glass of wine, and I was surrounded by people, high achievers. I've always been friends with high achievers, high performers, high achievers, and everybody did the same thing. So this wasn't a unique thing. It wasn't like, oh, Leah's got a problem because she's doing this. It's like every single other person is doing the same thing, right? They may not have the social anxiety to the extreme that I have my social anxiety, but everybody is using something to medicate and to maintain, and many people that I was around were using other substances to keep working or to, maintain that high level, that high pressure role or position that they were in. My 20s in New York City were filled with lots of different substances. And I joke, right? Because I do come from a family of addicts. And I've always said, I'm not an addict, but not for lack of trying. Like, I tried hard to become an addict, right? Of many things. And I would just say, oh, I don't have an addictive personality, though. I don't have an addictive personality. And it's so fascinating to me now because I didn't have a personality that was addicted to substances. Like I smoked on and off for years, and I would literally like smoke for a year. And then I'd wake up one day and I'd be like, this is disgusting. I don't want to do it again. And then I wouldn't smoke again for like 2 years. And then again, I would pick it up and then I'd be like smoking, for like 2 years. And then I would be like, one day, oh, this is disgusting. I don't want to do it anymore, and stop. And everything was always like that. I could stop drinking alcohol, though I never really did for more than a period of about 30 days because the social anxiety would kick in. I definitely had a period of time where my substance use in New York when I was running nightclubs became a problem. Like I knew I was relying on it for a crutch. And again, it was so I could be up till 4 a.m, entertaining people in a crowd, and then have to count all the money at the end of the night and pay out all the staff, right? So I was using substances to manage my anxiety, to manage my ability to be in crowds, to manage my ability to stay up and work. But even that, like I woke up one day in New York and I was like, this is awful. I don't like this life and I don't want to do this anymore. And I stopped doing everything and I flew home like a few days later and then didn't do any of it. So it was just this thing for me where like in my mind, I was like, oh, I don't have an addictive personality. I don't have an addictive personality. The thing that I realized, and it's really hit home for me over the last few weeks, is that I did have a crazy, crazy addiction and have had the majority of my life. It wasn't to drugs or alcohol. It was to adrenaline. And that adrenaline came from working. And I eventually became very, very addicted to the adrenaline hit that I got from making money. And the more money I made, the more adrenaline was created, the harder I wanted to work, the more I wanted to disappear, the more I wanted to focus on my work. And when I say disappear, I mean like disappear into my work, disappear from my life. And in my mind, I justified all of it as I was creating a beautiful life for my children. Like I was, I was equally carrying this adrenaline addiction and this mother martyrdom complex. Look how much I'm sacrificing for my children. Look how hard I'm working for my children. And I got an incredible payoff from that because my peers were always validating how hard I worked, how much I sacrificed, how incredible I was because I made so much money in such a short amount of time in my business. I was incredibly blessed that my coaching business, I entered into the online coaching space at a time where people were basically just throwing money at you. And I worked harder than everyone. I showed up more. I was more consistent. I was more disciplined. And as a result, I made more money than most people. But it was just so unhealthy. Like looking back, I'm like, yeah, it was awesome. It was amazing. There were some fun times were had. A lot of money was made, a lot. But the personal sacrifices and the physical sacrifices that happened as a result. And, quite frankly, the thing that actually, I totally didn't think I was going to get emotional on this, but the thing that brought me to my knees was 9 months ago when I had the realization that I had left my kids. I had left my kids to go explore a business opportunity because it was about making money. It was about having more success, chasing more success. And I left my children for 5 months. And when that hit me, like that was when I had the full fall to my knees, begging God to show me a different way. Because I was like, how did I get here? How did I get to this place where this adrenaline high, which I didn't even realize at that point what it was. But I was like, how did my personal values get so corrupted that I was okay with leaving my children? And my children were being incredibly cared for by my husband, and they were being taken care of, and they were loved, and they were, but I wasn't there. And I made all the excuses for why I wasn't there. And so for those of you that have been following me for a long time, you know that my life started looking dramatically different 9 months ago after this. After I had this realization, I was alone in Portugal. I decided to walk away from a business opportunity that I had invested a lot of time and energy into. About 5 months of my life, I'd left my children for it. I had invested an incredible amount of time in it. And God literally imploded the whole thing. And in the implosion, it was like every veil, every illusion that I had willingly allowed to be in place in my life was ripped away from me. And I saw everyone and everything for who they really were. And I looked around me and I recognized and realized that not only were the people that I was surrounding myself with not my friends, but I didn't even really like them that much. And the majority of them didn't have children. And our friendship had been based on a mutual desire for public recognition and acknowledgement and chasing money. And I felt dirty, and I felt broken, and I felt corrupted. And and it was like, I knew I did it all to myself. Like I literally was just like, it's such a humbling experience when you're like, I can't blame this on anyone. It's just me. I made the decisions that landed me where I am right now, but I knew I had to change them. And I had this one day that I will never forget of, just not knowing what to do and being in such a financially precarious place because I had scaled back my business almost to zero because I was planning on going full in on this opportunity. And I was taking care of everyone around me. and not really not really, but literally not taking care of myself at all. We'll get into the health stuff in just a minute, but I was overextending myself for everyone around me, not taking care of myself, ended up in like the most financially precarious position I had been in since I lost everything. And ended up, all that lost those millions and ended up that $1 million in debt in 2016 alone in Portugal. Like, what the hell am I doing with my life right now? And I mapped everything out. I'm a whiteboarder. When I travel, like I get these big pieces of paper and then I use them like a whiteboard and spread them all over the floor. So I whiteboarded out like everything I could do everything that was currently going on in my business, everything I could do in the next 6 months, because literally like I was getting ready to phase out all of this stuff and go all in on this opportunity that I was helping to build. And all I knew was every time I thought about moving forward with that opportunity, my body filled with dread and I felt like I was going to puke. And so ultimately I just knew like I couldn't do it. I'm like, this isn't for me. It's not in alignment with me. And I was having all these realizations, and there was lots of stuff coming to light from in a very public way around my friendships and the people that I was surrounding myself with. And I was just like, nah, I can't do it. But I mapped out all this stuff and I looked at it. I was sitting there looking at it. And I just knew that I had to be willing to surrender all of it. And I mean, this was such a profound moment in my life. Like, I don't think I've ever had another moment like this where I literally like dropped to my knees and was begging God to show me the path forward. And I mean, I was so scared. I was terrified. And I was like, look, God, I will surrender anything and everything in my life. Like, I can't live like this anymore. I was in so much physical pain. I was so sick. I was so sad. I was so broken. I was so defeated. I felt so alone. I felt like I was just completely alone. And like, I remember sobbing on my knees, sobbing, just show me the way. Just show me what is next. I need to be led, and I'm willing to do anything and everything. And like, there was a moment where I was like, I will even surrender my children if that's what's in their best good. But you just have to show me. And everything changed the next day. Everything, like everything changed. I woke up the next day with so much clarity. And like that moment, I reestablished my connection with God, and I reestablished like, and it was me, it was my openness. It was my willingness to be open to those messages and to that direction. And, God started speaking to me in a million wonderful ways. And the messages started becoming so incredibly clear, and the first message was, I have been telling you for 2 years to stop drinking. The alcohol is leading to all of your health conditions. And so that next day I was like, all right, I'm not going to drink anymore. And I haven't drank since. And I had been led to Michaela and Jordan Peterson and their journey with the lion diet and being carnivore. And I dove deeply for 2 weeks into study about the carnivore diet. And it was like just light bulb after mind-blowing moment after mind-blowing moment, when everything that I was reading that this diet cured was every single physical ailment that I had. And I was like, okay, I'm going to transition into carnivore, and then I'm going to do it for 8 weeks. And I planned to do a month of keto, and then I was going to become carnivore. And my body literally was like, nope. Every time I would try to eat something that wasn't carnivore, my body would completely reject it. So within 3 days of that fall down on the ground, like, please God help me moment, within 3 days, I was completely carnivore and have been since. And that started a radical chain of events in my life. And I began to become much more mentally clear than I had been in years. And I'm a thinker. I'm an overthinker. I'm like always thinking about 10 million things. And the other thing that I do all the time and have always done is my mom used to call it doing an autopsy of the thing that happened and how and why it didn't work. Like this real deep dive into the ins and outs of why something didn't work or why something failed. And that's something I've always been really good at. Like, and I've always been really good at, okay, this is why it failed. And this is my part in it. This is what I did. And that was incredibly difficult for me for the first couple months of this journey because I had a lot of guilt. I had a lot of guilt around leaving my children. I had a lot of guilt around my presence in my marriage that had fallen apart. I was having a lot of realizations about how much I had avoided my life and how much of my life I had missed working. I mean, from the outside, if you were following me during any of this period of time, I was living in a multi-million-dollar mansion on the beach in Bali that was like the most beautiful place you had ever seen. I was traveling before COVID. I was traveling during COVID. I was going to every single amazing and incredible place on this island, drinking all the champagne, looking from the outside like everything was amazing. And I was drowning and miserable and incredibly sick on the inside. And all I was doing was working. So you would see things from time to time of me being out and about, and definitely you would see me online presenting in different events and working and doing all of this stuff. But what you didn't see was that basically all I was doing was sitting in front of a camera, recording content or off camera, formulating content. And I was hiding in my work. And I was completely not present for my family. And while, yes, they were living an incredible life in paradise, they didn't have a mom and they didn't have a wife. Like, they had somebody that paid all the bills. They had somebody that bought them every and anything that they wanted. But my youngest son was being raised by nannies. My oldest son was basically on his own. And yeah, I mean, it just, years of me burying myself in work. And so my health really started to decline when the first hit to my health came when we lost everything, when our addiction treatment went under. And at that point in time, because of the incredible amount of stress I was under, I was vegan and I was nursing. I nursed my son until he was 3.5. I was not supplementing appropriately. My son was taking like every nutrient from my body, basically. And I became incredibly sick. I got hypothyroidism first, that then turned into reverse T3 syndrome. I got adhesive capsulitis in both of my arms. And a year after we lost everything, I couldn't move my arms above here. I gained 35 pounds that I wasn't able to lose until I went carnivore, and stopped drinking. And the health problems just started piling on from there. And so, part of coming to Bali, interestingly enough, was leaving the United States, having a fresh start, letting our kids have an opportunity to be global citizens instead of living in this what was becoming politically corrupt, sheltered American life, this place that I didn't want my kids growing up. But it also was about healing. I thought, I can get to Bali and I can heal my body and I can heal my mind and I can heal my spirit, And what ended up happening instead is I came to Bali and my business blew up and I just started working more and more and more and not healing and not doing the things that I needed to be doing to be fixing my health. In fact, I just started perpetuating the health issues more and more. My sciatica issues became so severe that my back would go out for weeks at a time. I was in nonstop back pain. I had been being told I was born with my head tilts on my axis. And as a result, I have some scoliosis in my upper back, but it also has caused some degeneration in my C5 and my C6 in my neck. And I'd been being told since I was about 30 that if I didn't do something about this, I'd be in a wheelchair by the time I was 50. And I'd been told this by multiple doctors who were just like, we can't believe it's not worse than it is right now. But I just was like, in my mind, I was like, and I still am like, that's not going to happen. Like, I know that I won't ever allow or enable that to happen. But I had put myself on a path of absolutely making that my reality. I've done everything I could in the last 9 months, and will continue to make sure that that's not my reality. But yeah, I mean, sitting at a computer all day long, hunched over, has done nothing for my degeneration in my C5 and C6. And in fact, it's also exacerbated that condition. And now I have a compressed L5 and L4. So, I just, the amount of health conditions that came since I got to Bali, like I can't even, severe anemia. My histamine reaction in my body is so severe. Like some of you saw 2 weeks ago, I got stung by a wasp and had to go into the clinic for IV antihistamine and steroid twice from just a wasp sting. Like my histamine reaction in my body is still like, that's one of the things I'm still working on healing, but it had gotten so bad that I'd get stung by a mosquito and would get a huge welt like this. And there's all kinds of crazy bugs in Bali that I get bit by all the time. So I was constantly in some kind of inflamed histamine reaction due to some kind of bug bite. Severe anemia, I mentioned. My adhesive capsulitis came back in both of my shoulders. Yeah, I was dealing with I was operating, I would say most days on about a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10, pain, with 10 being the highest. I was taking all kinds of muscle relaxers, anti-inflammatories, narcotics at times to manage pain. And I moved into a home that had mold in it. I was working in an office that I knew had mold in it. Like, this is how messed up my mind had become. Like, I knew there was mold in this office and I continued to work in there, like without regard to what it was doing to my health. But at the same time, I think from a cognitive perspective, I was in so much decline. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was incredibly, extremely depressed. I was so anxious. I was having panic attacks. I was managing the panic attacks with medication, essentially. Valium, and the mold was causing migraines that were lasting 5 to 7 days, debilitating migraines. I was a train wreck. Like, I was absolutely a train wreck. And I couldn't see my way out of it. I didn't even know how bad it was. I didn't realize what was going on because my brain was so foggy, and I could still work. Like, I've always been able to work. I could still push through. I was still delivering content. I was still signing people up for programs. I was still delivering coaching. I was still doing all the things, but my life was falling apart around me and my health was a disaster. The inflammation in my body was so extreme. I look like an entirely different person now, just from the inflammation having gone away. The addiction to the adrenaline from the work and the validation from the work, I think, has been my biggest discovery over the last couple of months. But since I stopped drinking, I've now started feeling, and I feel all the little feelings that come up in day-to-day life. And listen, like, to be fully honest, I don't know how you people have been doing this your whole lives because it's incredibly hard. I wouldn't trade it for anything now, but like, just know that like I'm in a day-to-day, it's like a whole new world because I'm experiencing this for the first time, like really in my adult life. And it's not just, oh, I feel lonely in this moment, or I feel sad in this moment, or I'm upset, or I'm angry, or I'm frustrated, but it's also the very, very uncomfortable feelings of I'm happy, I'm content, I feel joy. Those things are almost harder for me than the difficult emotions. And the further away I get from that last drink, that last numbing drink, the more aware I am of where I'm at. And the more I'm, well, first of all, discovering who I actually am, what I like, who I want to be, the type of person I want to show up as, what my actual morals and values are, who I want to surround myself with, how I want to show up for my kids, how I want to show up in my business, how I want to show up for my clients. Yeah, it's been a lot. Like the last year has been a lot. And it's a lot every single day. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. So from a health perspective, I would say I'm 90% better. I've lost 40 pounds. So 17 kilos, I think. I have no pain in my body, literally zero, like not one bit of pain. My adhesive capsulitis is completely gone. I have full motion back in both of my arms, which I haven't had for 10 years, 9 years. I still have a little bit of histamine stuff going on in my body, but from everything I understand, it's a long-term thing, getting that under control. So I'm still working on that. I do get headaches about twice a month, and they're hormonally induced. I got really debilitating hormonal headaches with Jack when I was pregnant with him. And so I'm not surprised that I'm still actually dealing with that. And I hope to like heal those completely, but we'll see. But I can tell you that having 2 days of headaches a month versus 14 is like, I feel grateful when I get the headaches now because I'm like, this is not going to be a multi-day kick my ass kind of a deal. My anemia is completely gone. My thyroid I am on the lowest dose of thyroid medication I've ever been on right now. I am supplementing with iodine, and I'm actually quite hopeful that within the next 6 months, I may be off of thyroid medicine altogether. So my health has completely turned around. My mental health I think really the most impactful thing that I could say is that I'm happy for the first time, I think, in my life. Like I'm actually happy, and I know what that feels like. And it's not a false happiness. It's not a produced, I'm not producing it for you because I think that's what you want to see. I'm actually just really happy and really content in my life right now. The continual awarenesses I have around the life that I was living are painful, and they are confronting. And what I did to myself for many years, it's disappointing. I'm disappointed in myself. I struggle with decisions that I made. But I'm also like actively working on forgiving myself and moving forward, because all I can do at this point is just choose to be the highest expression of who I came here to be. And that's what I work on every single day. I have taken a deep dive into studying the Stoics and Stoic philosophy, and that has helped me beyond measure, like beyond what I can even say. And I literally am obsessed with biohacking now. I am doing like all the things. I have my sauna in my house. I have my ice bath in my house. I have my red light therapy here. Like I go to the gym, I work out. I am obsessed with lifting weights. I'm obsessed with lifting heavy weights. We just ordered like all this workout equipment for the house for when I can't get to the gym. I'm incredibly proud of how my body has transformed from a physical perspective, and the consistency and the dedication that I put into it. I will 100% say that I have replaced alcohol with going to the gym, and that I'm fully aware that that is an addiction of its own, and work. So work and alcohol has been replaced with the gym, and I get that it's an addiction. And I also get that I have to keep it in check. Like I will go to the gym for 3 hours. That's not healthy, right? So I am aware of that. And it is something that I'm having to work on. But really, the biggest thing that I wanted to share here today, and especially if you are watching this in the Not Your Mama's MLM group, is I had to tell you all this backstory so that you could understand where I came from and where I was at, and like how addicted to working I had been, and how addicted to this adrenaline high. When I think back on it and I feel into what it felt like, because I could work 16 hours, go to sleep for 3 hours, get up and work 16 hours again. Like I was operating on adrenaline. And to go through years of doing that, I completely fried my endocrine system. I completely burned out my adrenals. Like I was operating and living in an adrenaline cycle. is a high unlike any drug I've ever experienced. And I've experienced a lot of drug highs. And people would be like, how do you work so hard? How do you produce so much? Like I was getting this validation from people, which was further fueling my belief that that's what I should do, or that's, I was getting payoffs everywhere from my peers, from my community, from my clients, from, I was getting all these payoffs for doing it. And the physical and emotional suffering that I was experiencing, I guess, seemed like a fair price to pay for the high that I was getting. And obviously I didn't realize this while I was in it. It wasn't until I stopped drinking and actually could look back on what I was experiencing that I fully understood what it was. It's wild. So I basically all but stopped working. Like I scaled my business all the way back and was only working with people that I really, really wanted to work with. And I was only putting out programs or doing offerings that lit me up, that I cared about. Majority of what I was offering was in business coaching and in astrology, because those are two things I'm really passionate about. But I scaled my business from, if my business was operating at 100, it was to 10. It's been to 10 in the last 8 months. I've only been doing very, very select things with people. Not working is really hard. Not overscheduling myself, not overbooking myself is really hard. It is a battle that I fight on a daily basis. It is something that I have to address every single day. And it's wild because I ran addiction treatment programs and I didn't realize that I was addicted, that I was addicted to this. I was addicted to this adrenaline high that I got from working. It's wake up and do your morning practice, do your reading, go to the gym. Yes, see your clients. Yes, do your program sessions. But my work went from being 16 hours a day to maybe being 4 hours a day. And being alone in those hours, and I, for the first part of the journey, was actually sharing my kids. So they were going back and forth. So I was having like 3 days completely alone. And like having those hours and not being able to fill them with work was fucking uncomfortable. Really, really uncomfortable. And I'm not going to lie, most of the time I would just go to the gym. But sitting with myself and getting to know myself over those months was the most incredible gift. And, again, just rediscovering my relationship with God and leaning on God for support, like through all this time, it's been amazing. And as a result, like so many incredible synchronicities have happened and come into my life, including this opportunity with Frequence, which we're going to get to in just a minute. About 2 months ago, I was like, okay, I feel like I want to start working more. Like I want to get back into working more. I feel healthy. I feel good from an emotional perspective. I feel good from a physical perspective. And I want to start making money again. I actually really like making money. Now, obviously, this is dangerous territory for me because I know what's going to happen, and it has happened, and it is happening, and it does happen, right? But I'm looking at this like I worked a lot when I was in addiction treatment with people with co-occurring disorders, and I worked a lot with eating disordered clients, and it's a totally different thing to stop using drugs and alcohol than it is to manage and overcome an eating disorder, because you don't have to have drugs and alcohol, but you do have to have food, right? And so managing that looks entirely different, and it's much more difficult. And, I feel like while physically I was not as sick as some of the eating disordered clients that I had, 100% mentally I was as sick. And I have to make money. We have to have money to survive. Like, this is the world that we live in right now, right? Like, we have to have money because it's what we exchange in this world. Now, I will say that, like, as this was happening, God perfectly orchestrated my life in a way that, fortunately, I am in a situation right now where I don't have to work for money. For the first time in my life, for the first time in my whole entire life, I can live my lifestyle right now without working at all. And that's a huge blessing. I am working because I want to. It completely changes how I'm showing up in my life because I'm only doing things that I really love and am passionate about. I don't have to do anything that I don't really, 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 really want to do. So it's enabling me to show up in a much different way. But I've always worked and I've always made money and I've always earned my way and I've always taken care of my family. And that's not something that I'm willing to let go of. So I started getting this bug of like, okay, I want to start working more, but I want to do it in a way that's healthy. I'm never going back to that place that I was. I'm never going back to that place I was. And so, there's God. Are you sure? Are you sure you're ready for this? And I'm like, yes, I'm ready. And then God's like, okay, here's frequency. And I know, like, it's literally, I share this a lot. And so if you've been following me for a while, like, I always use this analogy of like, I feel like we're in like this giant arena, right? So like, I picture like a gladiator, like the gladiator fights, and we're on the ground, right? We're in the arena and we're fighting. And all of our guides, our ancestors, our loved ones that have passed over, God, all the angels, they're up there in the stands, right? And they're cheering for us, right? And we're down on the arena floor, duking it out in this thing called life, right? Learning the lessons, doing the things. And I'm like, my spiritual team, my ancestors and my guides are literally always in the stand, like, oh my God, did you not learn that lesson the last time? Like, and then they get to send these signs, right? Like they can send these signs that are meant to like put us back on our path. And they can send the signs in like these little synchronicities and these nudges. And like, my people have completely given up on the little nudges and the little synchronicities. Like they know to reach me, they have to send me the fucking Mack truck of signs. I have to get hit by the truck in order to course correct, right? They're just like, there she goes again. She's completely off the path. Like, send in the truck, like this is how I imagine it. And at the same time, I believe that we're given the level of challenge that we can manage in this lifetime. And I don't know if it's because I've done it a lot, so I can manage more than some people, but I feel like I manage more than most. Maybe that's just my own perception, but I've been through a lot in this lifetime. And I also know that every time I say I want something, since I was a little girl, I can manifest the shit out of anything. If I want it, I can bring it to fruition in the material plane. I've always been that way. Always, always, always. So I'm like, okay, I want a business that I love, that I'm aligned with, where I can make money. And I want to do it differently this time. I'm going to do it differently this time. And so God's like, okay, get down there. You ready? And then it's like, I'm going to give you the biggest blessing. I'm going to give you the best business. I'm going to give you, not only am I going to give you what you're asking for, but I'm also going to make you grow rapidly, make heaps of money straight out the gate, and give you every single opportunity to make the same mistakes again. You show me how much you're committed to this different way of life, because I'm going to give you everything that would enable you to go right back to where you were. And the last 6 weeks has been a wild fucking ride, because I got introduced to frequency, and it was a soul yes. It was a soul yes for so many reasons. It was a soul yes because it's a company who has the most incredible mission. It was a soul yes because it's a company whose products support people with mental health imbalances. It's a company who their products were developed and formulated to help people who were recovering from addiction. Like, it couldn't be more perfect, right? Like, the products are clean, they're incredible. Like, the founders are amazing. The compensation plan is next level. It's the most beautiful affiliate model with no handcuffs. Like, it meets, and I didn't even go into 7 streams, but I created a movement called 7 streams, where I've created a series of criteria by which I vet investment opportunities now, investment of my time, energy, money, right? And there are these values pillars that I vet opportunities by. 7 Streams knocks all 7 of these values pillars out of the park. Like, it is such an incredible opportunity. So when it came across my desk, I was like, this is a hell yes. Like, my whole body was yes to this, you know? And so that's awesome. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go all in, but I'm still doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this. And this is just going to be one of my 7 streams of income, right? Well, it became very apparent very, very quickly that this was meant to be my home. Like, this was meant to be my home. I was meant to build this business. I hit double platinum in 6 weeks. Really, like, in 3.5 weeks, because I was really like only all in and building the business for about 3.5 weeks. I was talking to people and I was strategizing and I was doing some stuff, but like, I was really only all in for about 3.5 weeks. So hit the 3rd from the top, highest rank in the company in 6 weeks, built an incredible team of humans who are out there absolutely crushing. And, you know, got to the end of the month, end of April, and hit platinum, which was my goal. And then hit double platinum in like 3 days or something, 3 or 4 days. And in that going from platinum to double platinum, guess what starts kicking up again? The adrenaline. Because what am I seeing? Well, I'm seeing all of these epic people coming into the team. The numbers are growing. But every time I log into my dashboard, I see the sales ticking, right? $10,000 became $15,000 really, really quickly, became $20,000 really, really quickly, became $25,000 really, really quickly, became $33,000 really, really quickly. Like, and I'm like, this is rad. You know, like, I'm getting the hit. I'm getting the drug. It's kicking in, you know, and God's up there like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know? And I experienced the high. And in the high, I started feeling the burnout. And I started experiencing the place that I would always push beyond. Because every time there's a threshold, every time I get to a place where my body and my mind is exhausted, and I know it's just a couple more hours of work to push past that, and then I'm high, and then I'm flying, and then I can go for days. Probably could have hit triple platinum had I not had this awareness and was like, okay, no, I'm not going there. But it was so hard. It was so hard. And so the last several days have been me autopsying the end of month, right? And also going, I am worthy and deserving of having an incredibly financially lucrative business. I am worthy and deserving of building a huge team within this company. I am worthy and deserving of offering all the support and love and guidance that I want to offer to my team. I'm worthy and deserving of being able to show up. I'm worthy and deserving of all the money that I want to make, all the numbers that I want to hit, but not at the expense of my health, not at the expense of my number one priorities, which are myself, my relationship with God, my family, my health. And it has to be done differently this time. And I happen to be in a company whose product with a company whose products support that. And it's ultimately up to me. It's up to me to do things differently. I'm a different person in this company than I've been in any of my other companies, including my personal companies or my previous network marketing companies or my previous affiliate marketing companies. I'm a different person. I'm happy. I'm engaged. I'm excited. I'm more interested in celebrating other people's wins than I am interested in celebrating my own. I want to help people change their lives. I want to help people feel good now. Like, my personal mission aligns with the mission of this company. But more importantly, I'm just fucking happy. Just happy, and I'm excited, and I get up every single day with like lightness of being and excitement for what I can create inside this space and with this team of epic leaders that I've somehow magnetized into this space with me. And I pray a lot on it. And I ask for guidance every single day. And I ask that only people of the highest integrity come and join this team. And I ask that only people who share this mission and vision of doing network marketing and business in a new way come and join this team. And I ask that this not be about egos and this not be about personal validation and recognition and public recognition. I swear to God, you guys, if I never stood on a stage again, if I never, and I'll at some point share a story about the last time I was on stage where I literally could not deliver my speech and bombed and walked off the stage, which I've never done in my life. If I never stood on another stage again, if I never got public recognition again for anything that I did in my business, I would be okay with that. Like, I would so much rather see my team members shine. I would so much rather see people who haven't had that experience or had that recognition be able to have it, because I've been there and I've done that and I don't need it again. But I want leaders that don't need it either. I want leaders that want to see their people win. I want leaders who are happy to sacrifice the public recognition for the recognition of the people in their downline. I want to attract leaders that celebrate other people's wins. And so, yeah, like, I pray on this and I set intention around this, and I ask for only those people to be guided to me and ask for only those people to be brought into my space and into my world. And I pray every single day that I don't get lost, that I don't get lost in this addiction again, that I don't get lost in my obsession for work, that I don't get lost in my obsession for making money. And that I am able to be shown a way to have it all in a very, very healthy way. And I also ask that I get corrected really, really quickly, and that they don't wait to send the Mac truck in. Like, I don't want to be 2 months down the wrong path before I realize it. So I ask for the signs to be swift and rapid. And so far it's working. There's been a lot of realizations over the last week. There's been a lot of, it's been confronting. It's been difficult. It's been challenging. But I'm so incredibly happy to be here, and I'm so committed to building something differently this time. And, I'm still competitive as hell. I still absolutely want my team to be the top team in the company. And I still absolutely I want everybody earning these incredible checks. And more than anything in the world, I believe in this model because I know it has the ability to change lives. The beauty of this company, Frequence, is that it is a hybrid affiliate model. It is not a traditional network marketing company. So it can be operated straight affiliate model. It can be operated in a way that you can build a team and support a team if you want to unlock additional bonuses. It is a hybrid MLM of sorts, but I'm really, really committed to showing people that this can be done in a really beautiful, sustainable way. I believe in this model because I have seen how this model changes lives. I know the state of the global economy. I know how people are suffering. I know what a big deal it is for a family to put an extra $1,000 in their bank account every single month. And I know how incredibly easy that is to do with network marketing. With the right guidance, with the right leadership, with the right company and the right product, it's almost ridiculous how easy it is. And I know that I can show people how to do that. And so for me, it's like knowing the state of the world right now, knowing where people are in the world, knowing how people are struggling. I can't be okay with knowing about this opportunity and not sharing it. I can't be okay with knowing that I know how to lead a team to success, and I know how to lead people to 5-figure a month checks, 6-figure a month checks, if that's really what they're after. I can't not do that with the world in the current state that it's in. But just know that I'm navigating my own shadows along the way. And I'll continue to be open and transparent and honest and vulnerable with you about what I'm going through, because the other thing that I absolutely do not want to do is create clones of me who go through and have to experience the same thing that I experienced. And I will tell you that something that I'm incredibly regretful about is that I did do that at a certain period of time in my business. I did coach people how to be me. I did coach people how to work the way I worked. I did coach people how to burn themselves out. And I will not do that again. Like, that is my commitment. I will not do that again. I will help us all, while I'm learning and struggling through it myself, to build better and to always maintain the things that are most important in your life. And that's not money, and that's not building a business. It's the things that you hold most near and dear to your heart. And it is absolutely the evolution of your soul, first and foremost. So, yeah. So if you're here and you're already on this team, welcome. Now you know a little bit more about me and my story and where I've come from and where I'm going. And if you're new to me and you're new to this space and you want to come and join an incredible family, it's really what I feel like our team is becoming. It's just this incredibly beautiful family and collective. Just know we have some epic leaders on this team. Like, the ability to earn really good money here. It's here because of the incredible compensation plan. It's here because of the incredible company. It's here because of the high quality unicorn products, category creating products. It's here because of all of that. But most importantly, it's here because of the heart of service that these leaders have that are being called into this collective. And it's not the Leah show. Like, I know how to make money, and I know how to help you make money. And I know how to help you get your limiting beliefs out of the way and clear your blocks, your perceived blocks that are keeping you from anchoring in the ability to earn money. That part's easy for me. That part's always been easy for me. There are so many more incredible gifts that these leaders that are joining this collective have that are so much more valuable than anything that I could have to offer you. But it's the combination, right? It's my gifts combined with Angie's gifts, combined with Carrie's gifts, combined with Michelle's gifts. Like, with Marina's gifts, with Bryn's gifts, with Barb's gifts. Like, it's the culmination. It's the collaboration of all of these gifts coming together that creates the magic, and it's why the team has been able to perform the way it's been performing. We hit platinum on the second day of the month. The second full day of the month, the team had already achieved platinum status. It was wild. Like, I was sitting in disbelief. I'm like, how is this even possible? That we've already re-ranked to platinum, this team, in 2 days. That's magic, right? That's co-creation. That's collaboration. That's a mission. That's a vision that you can fully energetically back. And that's a product that we know works. So thank you for being here and listening to all the words. So, so, so grateful.